Ah! Hey guys, what's going on? Too Lazy for Life here, back at you again with another episode of Fate Zero. So we're up to episode 11 now. Just one more episode after this to go until I finish season 1. Or the first half anyways, since the whole thing has been released already, so not really needing to count seasons, I guess. Last episode, we got to follow Rin on a little side story, a little side quest, Rin's Adventure. And yeah, we just got to follow her on essentially a mystery hunt for all of the missing children in her school around the time the Holy Grail War started. And we all know who, we probably, before we even saw his face on the screen, we probably all knew who the person responsible for this was. Yeah, we probably knew who the culprit was for this way in advance. Our man Ryunosuke. And yeah, Rin had to go track those children down and bumped into Ryunosuke, collecting more kids, and was just, you know, piling them up in a dark underground sort of bar, nightclub. And yeah, Rin managed to defeat Ryunosuke, if that's what you want to call a defeat, break that magic bracelet that Ryunosuke was using to mind control all of those kids, and yeah, set all of those kids free and save the day. That was pretty much the general overview of the general summary of what happened last episode. Nothing else to it than that. Just a nice little side story just to, you know, ease off the pain and suffering of the main story that we're following. Alright, so we're going to move on now to the next episode. The next episode is called Grail Dialogue. Don't know what that's going to be about, but probably sounds like a lot of info dumping if you're asking me. So, without further ado, guys, let's go. Yeah, your castle's all messed up. Such a Oh, damn! Ryder's coming. They waited for Kuritsugu to leave, and then they're going to ambush them. I don't think so. I don't think Ryder's that kind of person. What the heck? He just turns up with his t-shirt on. He's definitely not here looking for a fight. There's the title drop. So they're gonna discuss who's fit for the Grail, huh? Matter will clarify itself as we drink. Of course you'd show up as well. Of course you would show up. The Banquet of Kings. What is this cheap shit? How dare you give me such crap? Okay, so his portals don't just fire swords. He just pulls out whatever the fuck he wants out of those things, huh? Wow. Even Saber got slightly impressed right there. The grail is not a drinking cup. So Gilgamesh is saying that everything in the world belongs to him, since the origins of everything came from his treasury. Okay, so Gilgamesh says that since the grail already belongs to him, he doesn't actually want it. He's just trying to dispense justice on the thief that's trying to take it from him. I simply take what I want. Oh, that's another bitch slap! What? That's his wish? He wants to be brought back to life for real to conquer the current world. That's not how a king should be. I don't think these two should make any sacrifices. The country and the people that sacrifice to the king. That's the words of a tyrant. Yeah. If the end was brought about by my decisions, then I will accept its fate, but never regret. So the king are just a slave. Man, everyone's spitting truths left and right. Gilgamesh was getting turned on there. Oh, shit! Oh, and he ruined his shirt. Oh, you guys are fucked now. Must a king be alone in his superiority? I'll have to show you exactly what a real king is. The fuck? A reality marble? Holy shit. My ultimate noble phantasm. Annihilate them. Oh my god. I no longer recognize you as a king. Oh, damn. Oh. Oh, jeez. That episode. We have a lot to talk about. That episode. So buckle up, guys. This is going to be a pretty long review, pretty long after show discussion. I think on like 2, if not 3 occasions, my eyes were starting to water. Like I was so close. I was so close on several occasions to tearing up watching that episode. The words that they were all throwing at each other, the words that Gilgamesh and Saber and Ryder were throwing at each other during that banquet, the banquet of kings. Man, those words cut deep. Those words, everything that they said to one another, they were all true. Nothing they said was bullshit. Everything that every one of them said was all true. Never have any more real words been spoken during that drinking session. So yeah, this episode, guys, episode 11, Grail Dialogue. I might as well just call it the Banquet of Kings. So this episode was pretty much for the entirety just we got to watch 3 kings, okay? The meeting of 3 kings, Saber, King Arthur, Gilgamesh, and Iskandar, who I still don't know who that is yet. Saber, Archer, and Ryder sat down on the rooftops of the Einspurn Castle in the courtyard, in the garden, and had a little discussion, had a little chit-chat while they drank. We just basically sat back and watched these 3 have, you know, exchange thoughts. During those talks, we got to learn about the wishes that all 3 kings, all 3 servants were after in this Grail War. We got to learn about what it means. The main thing that I took away from this episode, from their talk, was the concept of what it meant to be king. That was the main thing, to be honest, that was taken away from this episode, from that talk. What does it mean to be a king? First of all, we talk about their wishes, right? Ryder, to the shock and disbelief of the other 2 servants, Ryder, he wants true incarnation. He wants to come back to life, because right now he's still essentially just a spirit. He doesn't actually have a full physical body, in a sense. I guess the physical body that he has right now, that he's able to touch stuff in the current real world, is because of just magic. I guess his spirit is just physically materialized in this world because of magic, but he truly, you know, he's not an actual living human being, you know, like his master Waver. So Ryder wants true incarnation. He wants to come back to life so that he can then conquer the real world, conquer the current world, and continue, you know, his path of conquest that he left off on when he died. So that's Ryder. Gilgamesh doesn't want any he doesn't have a wish, because Gilgamesh, according to him, his treasury. Gilgamesh, if you guys didn't know, was one of the earliest kings, okay, in recorded history. Some say he was even the first king in recorded human history. Based on just recorded human history, Gilgamesh was arguably the number 1 king, the first king to have ever walked among, mankind. His treasury, he says, apparently held every single treasure, the origin of every single thing that exists in the current day traces back to his treasury. He owned the original, I wouldn't say blueprint. He owned the original item that every other inspiration, every other item that came after it, that all the other iterations of stuff that came after it would have, derived their origins from. Gilgamesh essentially is saying he is the origin of all things to have existed from mankind. In that case, that holy grail that everyone's after ultimately belongs to him, originally belonged to him. No matter what version of that grail is right now, the original holy grail existed in his treasury, and therefore at the end of the day belongs to him. So he doesn't need to seek this grail. He doesn't need to wish upon this grail, because ultimately he's saying that this holy grail war that all 7 of these servants and masters have joined and are fighting over, they're fighting over a cup that ultimately belongs to Gilgamesh, and you guys are fighting over my possession that I didn't give you permission to fight over, and I didn't give you permission to touch, or I didn't give you permission to claim ownership of. So you guys, since you didn't ask for permission, you guys are essentially stealing from me. You're all thieves, okay? And I'm here to dispense justice, and I'm here to punish the person who dares, okay, steal from me. How dare you steal from the King of Kings, Gilgamesh? That's basically what Gilgamesh was saying when it came to his wish. Saber, her wish, as we've heard before, her wish is to simply use the Grail's miracle powers to undo her reign as king, undo the tragedies that befell upon Britain towards the end of her reign. To the disgust of Gilgamesh and Ryder, they don't approve. They don't approve of what Saber wished for. They think it's absolute horseshit. They think it's absolute crap. So those are the three wishes from those three. So the Banquet of Kings, right? So in the Banquet of Kings, we were seeing just what, you know, each different king's take upon what it meant to be king was. Like, really, we were watching exchange of ideologies. That's the main thing I want to. That's the main, you know, topic title that I want to drop on you guys. It's all about clash of ideologies right here. This episode was just a major ideology smash fest. And, well, you can clearly see that their ideologies did not like one another whatsoever. They were almost essentially just polar opposites, which was the reason why Ryder ended up falling out with Saber. And Gilgamesh didn't really approve of Saber either. Because Gilgamesh and Ryder's ideologies, they were the same. So what does it mean to be king? Now, according to Saber, a king should be a lonesome, selfless, righteous protector, servant of the people. That king, the moment they decide to take up the mantle, take up the responsibility of king, that king, their duty for the rest of their life serving as a king, being a king, is to serve the country, serve the people. Everything the king does is for the benefit and well-being of the people, and the king is there to look after and safeguard their country and their population. To Saber, that's what it meant to be king, which was the reason why Saber said that Saber wants to wish upon the Grail to undo her reign, because to her, in her opinion, she failed as a king. If that's what she believes is to be a king, is to serve the country, serve your people, and ensure the protection and prosperity of those whom you rule over, then she thinks that she failed. Because in the end, Britain was kind of in ruins, and a lot of people died, and essentially, you know, that's therefore, you know, not meeting the criteria of king to Saber. Whereas Ryder and Gilgamesh, both of them during their reigns, they serve the people? Fuck no. To them, they are what Saber calls tyrants. Okay, to them, what they believe to be a king is the king needs to be bigger and better than everyone else. The king needs to do everything to a much grander extent to that of a lowly human being of the populace over which they rule. The king is to be the most grand, most standout, most vibrant, most shining beacon of everything that's just over the top. That's what it means to be king, because then the people can look up to that person and envy that person and worship that person almost like a god. They're just so over the top. They just represent the pinnacle of human lifestyle and of just, you know, the absolute top dog. They have to exert that omnipotent presence everywhere they go. That's what it means to be king. And the people under which the king rules, those people, they are the ones to serve the king. It's the exact reverse. It's the exact opposite, okay, to what Saber was saying. Whereas Saber selflessly serves her country, the country, in this case, serves Ryder and Gilgamesh, okay? That's the point I was missing out. As Ryder said to Saber, so you're saying that a king is a slave to their country, because that's what Saber is essentially saying about her role as king. Whereas to Ryder and Gilgamesh, the country is the slave to the king. The country, the people serve the king, not the other way around. So you can see why these two are not agreeing with one another. They're completely on opposite ends of the spectrum of what they believe is to be king. Saber's like, what? Both of you, okay, your reigns. I don't think they mentioned Gilgamesh. I don't think Saber even knows who Gilgamesh is at this point. But she said to Ryder, because it seems Saber knows who Ryder is. I don't know. I'm not searching it up. Hopefully if later on they still don't tell me, guys, you guys tell me in the comments. But I don't want to spoil it for myself unless that is literally who he is Iskandar, and I don't know who that is. Okay, at this current moment in time, I don't know who that is. So Saber knows who Ryder is. at this time as well. I don't know, but yeah. Saber knows Ryder's history apparently, and it seems like the end of his reign also turned out to be destruction. Okay, the heirs of his family were killed, and his empire was broken up. And yeah, to Saber, that seems like a failure. All right, you ended on such a sad note, on such a bad ending. How can you call that a success? Why do you not want to redo that? Why do you not want to undo that failure? That really pissed Ryder off. That was like, so you're saying that your wish on the Grail is to undo your histories, to undo your hallmarks upon histories, to undo everything that you did as king, because you think that just because the end was not what you wanted, you're going to undo everything that led up to that point. And then Saber's like, yeah, why aren't you thinking the same? Oh man, Ryder got pissed. Ryder's like, listen, okay, little child, listen, okay? If you choose to undo everything that you did, okay, I don't care that the end of my reign was essentially what you call a disaster. I don't care that the heirs of my family were killed. I don't care that my empire got dissolved. I don't care about all of that. All I care about was the fact that I lived the way I wanted to. I followed through with my dreams, my plans. I lived the way that I wanted to live, and I followed through with it to the end, and never turned my back, okay, upon, what I believed in. I followed through with what I believed in to the very end, and if following through with what I believed in to the very end led to my destruction, so be it. I stay true to myself, and that's all that really matters. So, if you undo, at the very end, if you decide to, I basically had no regrets. Ryder, and it seems like Gilgamesh as well. Gilgamesh didn't say anything, didn't object to what Ryder said. So Gilgamesh and Ryder, they're both tyrants, and I guess they both lived the exact same lifestyle. They lived extravagantly, the people served them, and they did whatever they wanted, and they just lived out a fulfilling, truthful, true to themselves lifestyle right up to the very end, and they had no regrets about what they did with their life. Ryder's like, if you dare have any regrets, okay, about what you did in your life, and you want to undo it, that is mocking. That is a disgrace. You're disrespecting. You're mocking everyone and everything that was lost, that was sacrificed along the way for you to achieve for you to end up where you were, for you to achieve what you wanted to achieve. Okay, which is true. It's the same thing in real life. It's a lesson for you guys in real life, a very valuable lesson, which is just live life with no regrets. The worst thing you can have in life are regrets. Just live life to the fullest, do everything that you want to do, stay true to yourself, and in the end, no matter what the outcome is, whether it's good or bad, whether it's something you wanted or whether it's something that you didn't want, hey, as long as you can say to yourself at the end of the day, this was the path I chose to take. I chose to take it. I chose to go with it head on, and I never looked back, and I never had any regrets. I'm satisfied. That's the way somebody should live. To ever doubt yourself and to ask yourself whether what you did was a mistake and whether the stuff that you did wasn't right and you regret it and you wish you took it back, meant that everything along the way, all of that time you spent, all of that effort you spent, all of the people and the items, the things involved, everything that was involved along the way that had to suffer with you, that was lost along the way with you, they basically were all lost in vain. When you want to take it all back, when you want to undo it all, it means that all of that stuff was for nothing. And that is no way somebody should live. Like Ryder said, the way that you live, the ideals that you stick to, the ideals that you believe in, that you follow, your perspective of what a king is nothing but a curse. It's a stupid dream, and you need to wake up very soon, little girl. But what Saber said, it's not wrong. It's that is just another take on what it means to be king. That is one ideology. This talk between the three is just a clash of ideologies. So yeah. So that was basically the talk between those three. And yeah, it was a very, very moving talk. Okay, I almost teared up when I was listening to all of that. It was just really, really deep, really heavy dialogue to take in. You could see the look on Saber's face when Ryder was smack talking her with his view, his take on what it meant to be king, and sort of the faults in the way Saber was thinking. Everything that Ryder was saying to Saber, and Saber was just having like a Vietnam flashback PTSD to the end of her reign. She was completely lost for words about whether what she did was right or wrong. She was feeling very conflicted at the time. And man, Gilgamesh is a bit of a masochist, bit of a sadist. He was looking at Saber's anguished face, and man, he was getting turned on. Gilgamesh was wanting a piece of Saber's ass when he was looking at her like that. It's like, come on, Gilgamesh. This is not the time and place for something like that. And then finally, at the very end, Assassin turns up with all the assassins. I think they were trying to either take out Ryder by a long shot or just reveal Ryder's true power. And man, Ryder's true power summoned an army. He not only just projected some kind of reality, his own imagination into reality around him, but in that imagination space, he summoned an entire army, which apparently were all servants. What? Ionian Hitari or something like that? An entire army. During that fight, Ryder laid down one final piece of advice for Saber. Just one last real talk, one last thought for Saber. He said to Saber, "So, Saber, let me ask you something. Should the path of a king be that of a loner? Should the king walk alone?" And Saber's like, "Yes. To be a king, you must be alone." Ryder was like, "No. That's not the answer I was looking for. I'm gonna show you, little girl, what it means to be a true king." And then when that whole army was behind Ryder was like, "No. So Saber, listen, let me show you. When the people, okay, serve the king, and the people are willing to follow their king, okay, wherever he goes, willing to just do everything the king tells them to. Essentially, the people are one with the king. Okay, the people are the embodiment of the king's ideals because they're going out and doing everything the king says. So essentially, in a sense, what he's saying is the people also share the same ideals as the king, shares the same beliefs as the king. If they're willing to follow their king wherever he goes, and together the king and the people are one, instead of what Saber does, which Ryder criticized her on previously. It's like you Saber, you don't really want to get to know your people, okay? You just shelter your people. You're like a helicopter parent. Since all you do is shelter and protect and cradle and just babysit and helicopter parent your country and its population, yeah, sure, you're protecting them, but at the end of the day, you're also distancing yourself from them. Because as Saber said, the life of a king to her is a very lonely one. You're not wanting to get to know your people. You're not wanting to build relationships with your people. You're distancing yourself. You're separating yourself from your people, and you're just watching over them from afar and making sure that they're safe. That sort of life, when will those people ever want to follow you? When will those people ever want to, be by your side? How will those people ever try to relate to you? Somebody that just never wants to be around the very people that he's trying to serve and protect. You're basically living the life of a martyr. You're living the life of just kind of like a silent vigilante. No one wants to aspire to be such a person. That person lives a very thorny path, a very lonely, sad, troublesome life. Follows a very lonely, sad, troublesome road. And nobody wants to take upon themselves that sort of responsibility. No one's going to relate to that. No one's going to want to become that. And therefore, the people aren't essentially going to respect and love Saber in the same way that what Ryder believes in. The people will love and respect and adore their tyrant king and will follow him anywhere he goes because of just how much of a grand example he sets for himself to the people that he rules over. To build that relationship with your country and its people is a very, very important thing when it comes to being a king. And I think that's something Ryder is saying Saber missed out on, didn't get the point on during her time as king. Ryder then summons his whole army and demolishes Assassin. I think Assassin must be dead now, okay? All the assassins were there at that time, and Ryder just absolutely crushed all of them. I think this is it. This is the end of Assassin. There is no way he's still alive. I'll be damn well surprised if he is. And then in the end, when everything was over, Ryder's just like, "Thanks for the talk. I thought we were here as three kings to discuss, this Holy Grail war and, you know, get down to business and whatnot. But in the end, it seems like it was only 2 kings and a naive little girl in her own, you know, stupid little dream. You need to wake up soon, okay? Little girl, you need to wake up soon. I no longer see you as a king. And then Ryder just flies off. Gilgamesh, I mean, sort of comforted Saber a little, but then in the end, he wasn't really comforting her. Gilgamesh was just like, I've suddenly taken an interest in you, Saber, in his own little twisted way, and Saber didn't appreciate that one bit. And, you know, he disappears laughing as he does so, and we just leave it off with Saber and Irisfield just standing there in the courtyard. I guess Saber at this point is feeling like absolute shit. Bullied. She just got, you know, ganged up on. I guess her pride, her ego, everything about what she stood for just has been shattered right before her in the presence of these 2 extravagant, over-the-top tyrants. Poor Saber. I feel very bad for her. Her ideologies, I guess, in the end, just couldn't stand up to Ryder and Gilgamesh's ideologies. Oh well. So yeah, that's all of my thoughts. Yeah, one heck of a long discussion it's been. I think it's been like almost 30 minutes of discussions. Those are all of my thoughts on episode 11 of Fate Zero, guys. It was one heck of an episode, though, even though there was hardly any action until towards the end. Just all of that chit chat was very, very fascinating to sit through and listen to and read. That's it from me for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've liked what you've seen and you want to see more, then hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell icon so that you always be kept up to date with all of my activities here on YouTube. Do the same thing for my other 2 YouTube channels. Links are given in the video description down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, and join all of my other social media platforms. All of the links you need are given right down there. All right. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time for the last episode of Season 1, Episode 12. Until then, bye for now.